I just wanted to mention that we will try to have a pre-recorded Mass for the feast of Our Lady, Mary, Mother of God. So that's on January the 1st. In regards to today's readings, if you recall, yesterday I had mentioned that Simeon and Anna were the only ones that were able to recognize the Christ child in the temple, which in the temple there is a lot of people in the temple, including the Pharisees and all these people who were supposedly holy. And I asked the question, well, why only Simeon and Anna? And the answer, of course, is that they were holy, they were close to God. So in today's gospel reading, we have a continuation of that gospel passage, and today there is the mention of Anna. And it mentions that she lived to be 84 years old. So she was very old. She had lived after her husband died, so she was only married for 7 years, and at that time, people got married fairly young. So she was probably in her 20s. Imagine, 50 years in the temple. And it mentions that she worshiped there with fasting and prayer night and day. So fasting and prayer night and day. So, okay, her husband died. Maybe she didn't want to get married. Maybe she had nowhere else to go. But why with so much prayer? Why with so much fasting? Or even if she did want to dedicate her life to serving God, why fast? Isn't it a great burden to fast? I'm sure when we undertake fasting during the season of Lent, we find it difficult. So why did she do it? Why did the saints do it? Is it just because they wanted to gain self-control, self-mastery? That is definitely one of the benefits of fasting, but she's in the temple. She probably doesn't do a whole lot. Maybe she did interact with people. We don't know. But why would she go to such an extreme? And, there's many benefits to fasting. I don't want to mention all of them, but the primary benefit is in regards to our relationship with God. So when we fast, we are denying ourselves, we are denying our earthly bodily needs, and it enables us to become more spiritual, to become more focused on God. So it actually enhances our prayer life. It draws down God's graces upon us more fully. The hunger that we feel for food, we transform that hunger and we direct it towards God. So we hunger for God ever more fully. And I'm sure most of us who've done some fasting, we agree that it's not a pleasant thing. So giving up food or fasting, if what you're going to gain is much better than what you would gain if you were to eat and enjoy a meal, that's the whole point. In other words, what you will gain is far better. So in other words, your relationship with God is far better. Think even today, young men who pursue the priesthood, who enter the seminary, or men and women who enter religious life. Why would they give up the things of this world in order to dedicate themselves to the service of God? Obviously, they perceive something that is truly good and desirable and fulfilling. And that, of course, is their relationship with God. And this is actually touched on in today's first reading from the first letter of St. John. It mentions near the end, do not love the world or the things in the world. The love of the Father is not in those who love the world, for all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desire of the eyes, the pride in riches, comes not from the Father, but from the world. And the world and its desires are passing away, but those who do the will of God live forever. So it's not just saying, well, there's some good things in the world and avoid those things. It's really saying that God and pursuing God is far, far better, far more rewarding. And it's usually when people are older, they realize this. A lot of young people, their lives are new, they're still experiencing things, they want to fall in love, they want to buy a fancy car, they want to have their own home. They have all these ambitions, they have all these goals, and we can't blame them for that. It's good in some way to pursue these things, but the most important thing is God. But what I wanted to point is that because they're pursuing all these worldly goods, they don't think about pursuing God. They don't think about their relationship with God. And so it's not surprising especially when young people, especially if they engage in sinful activity, they fall away from the practice of the faith. You know, many parents come to me and they're very concerned. Oh, my adult children, they don't come to church anymore. They don't believe anymore. Okay, be patient. Keep praying for them. Hopefully, as they get older, they will realize that the things of this world don't make them as happy as they thought that they would. Yes, there's a lot of joy and goodness to be had, especially in relationships and good, healthy relationships. But ultimately, none of these things can fulfill us. Only God can. And if you recall, I had mentioned that statistics show that during this pandemic, those who have faith do much better than those who do not have faith. In other words, people without faith, especially if they've lost their jobs, if they're having difficulties, if they're isolated from family and friends, a lot of them are prone to depression, loneliness, and some of them commit suicide. So the rate of suicide has increased quite dramatically, which is very unfortunate. But those people who have faith, because they pray, they connect with God. They don't feel alone. They don't feel isolated. And even if they may have lost their jobs and are having financial difficulties, they have hope because they put their trust in God, not just in the things of this world. So the reason that Anna was spending so much time in prayer and fasting is because she found it beneficial to her relationship with God. She found it fulfilling and rewarding. And it's a reminder to us also that we too shouldn't just indulge in worldly goods, you know, even entertainment on television. It can be a form of indulgence. So we have to limit these things, and it's actually good for us to deny ourselves certain things. Some people may not be able to fast from food, but you could fast from the TV, you could fast from social media, you could give up eating between meals, you could be more punctual. In other words, fast from doing what you feel like doing and instead do what you're supposed to be doing. So there's many little things that we can do to mortify ourselves. And it's extremely beneficial for us to do this, not just in the spiritual life, but to help us to have greater self-control, greater self-mastery, which will benefit us in our relationship with other human beings also. I wanted to mention, if any of you are prone to anger, to blowing your top, and you know, in a sense, most people occasionally they do that, but some people are more prone to it than others, especially when they are under stress. And I can imagine some people, because of this pandemic, are under stress. So I want to encourage those of you who are prone to get angry, to blowing your top, I encourage you especially to practice self-denial. So why do we get angry? Why do we blow our top? Because things aren't the way that we like them to be. If we don't get what we want, we get angry. Or if someone opposes us and disturbs our peace, our tranquility, we get angry. In other words, we lack self-control. We cannot face difficulty. We cannot face, not having things our own way. So when we practice fasting, self-denial, it can help us to acquire that self-control. It can enable us to deal with the sufferings that we are facing because of our hunger or whatever we may be giving up. So it doesn't happen overnight. We have to work at it. But I very strongly encourage you to practice self-denial. Whether you are prone to anger or not, it will benefit all of us.